Live with the community. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. Today is November 24th. Holy cow! Where is the year gone? It is going so fast, but time flies when you're having fun, right? So speaking of fun, let's talk about the agenda for today. We're going to see the latest updates on community, PnP.NET libraries, PowerShell, latest on Teams Toolkit, Microsoft Graph Toolkit, so many toolkits. Then we're going to see an update on the independent publisher connectors. We're going to see a plethora of samples. Got to get that in. Script samples, Microsoft Teams samples, Power Platform samples, and then everybody's favorite time, picture time. And then our all-stars of the day, Adam is going to discuss Introduction to CLI for Microsoft 365 and PnP PowerShell VS Code extension. And then Chris Kent is going to show us a little bit of that list formatting magic that he always brings. So let's talk about your opportunity to participate in the community. We absolutely want you to participate. This is your community. You can demo a solution or a technical pattern like you're going to see on this call. You're absolutely welcome to do that. You can contribute on GitHub. Now, once you do that, we're going to ask you to actually demo it on this call, so it's a win-win. You get a combo package there. We also love feedback. We'd love to know what you're enjoying. We'd love to know what you'd see more of. We'd love to know what could be improved upon. We just ask you to keep it nice and positive for us to make sure that we're keeping it a good and a positive environment for everybody in the community. All right, where can you learn about all this goodness? Well, we have a number of resources available to you. There are some community and developer videos, and those are there for you to learn and from each other, as well as those in Microsoft. We have open source initiatives like the CLI, like our PowerShell. You can see all those at a variety of GitHub locations. And then we've got a cornucopia of sample galleries. As mentioned, we've got an all-up M365 sample gallery where you can kind of see everything aggregated together. And then we've got team samples, SPFX samples, Power Platform samples, extensions, list formatting. The list goes on and on and on. There's so many, but it's awesome because there's only one location you need to remember to access all of these things, and that is ak.ms/m365/community will give you access to all of these amazing resources. Now, you may be asking yourself, I really love these calls. Is there more of them? You betcha. So we have a number of developer community calls. We have a weekly community call called the Microsoft 365 Platform Call. This is Microsoft-only presenter, so you're getting it directly from the mothership. This is a must-have on your calendar. You can access that at aka.ms/m365-dev-call. And then we've got Microsoft Identity Platform, Office Add-ins, Power Platform, which is once a month. We just had that last week live from the MTC in Minnesota. And we have the bi-weekly Microsoft 365 Power Platform Development Call, which you're on now. And then the sibling Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework. You can access all of these calls at aka.ms/m365/calls. Make sure you download all those ICS files and add them to your calendar. Let's talk about that Microsoft 365 platform call. The next one's going to be the 29th of November at 8 a.m. Pacific. Again, this is coming directly to you from Microsoft employees, so you're going to get it from those project managers and product managers. So next week, we're going to see Seb and Gavin talking about the MGT, Microsoft Graph Toolkit updates and next steps. So everybody loves a little MGT in their life. We're going to see what's exciting coming up soon. Philip Lee is going to show us scale access to Microsoft 365 data with Microsoft Graph Data Connect. And then John Miller is going to join in and show what's new in Microsoft Teams Toolkit. So we got lots of updates and what's news coming for you. Now, you may see all of these things and go, holy cow, that is a lot to contribute to. I don't even know where to start. Well, we got your back. Sharing is Caring is a program we started to provide hands-on guidance. Now, we've got more and more sessions ramping up soon and scheduled. In fact, one next week for the Power Platform Samples contributor. So don't hesitate to sign up for that. November 28th, you can still sign up for that. These are sessions that are live and hands-on, but they're safe space. That means there's no recording. You can ask any and all questions you want. We're not recording it, so you don't have to be fearful of, was that the right question, the wrong question? And you're going to work together with members of the community, MVPs, and other passionate, like-minded folks in the community such as yourself. They are all live, and they're all ready for you to interact with. We're going to actually walk you through how to accomplish a number of these things. So you can do and sign up for any or all at ak.ms/sharing is caring. So don't hesitate to do that. They're all free, by the way. There's no charge here. Community is all free. And once you have contributed, we want to recognize you for all of the amazing work that you're doing. So the Community Recognition Program has been set up to provide you official and accredited recognition for the work that you're doing. What does that mean? It means that we have powered by Credly, partnered with Credly, that same Credly that does the badges when you get Microsoft certified. These are the exact same badges. They will sit right next to those certification badges, and they showcase your contributions, which means that you can show the difference to your clients, to your managers, that you're making in the community in a formal and official way. You can associate it with your LinkedIn profile. You can put it on Twitter. You can make a card out of it and send it to your friends. I know I do all of that, and we want you to be empowered to do all those things as well. It is absolutely free, again, to sign up. So you can do that, opt in at aka.ms/m365/recognition. And for this month and next month, we have our Season of Getting. So don't hesitate to take advantage of these 2 months. We're going to have special badges for just November or December. If you contribute in either of those months, you're going to get this special Season of Getting contribution badge. So we want everybody to be excited about that. All right, let's get to the project-specific updates. So for that, we will turn it over to Bert on PnP.NET Libraries.
Thank you, David. And PnP.NET library side, we had a couple of changes, not that many over the last weeks, but the good news is that we did the release like a couple of weeks ago, so I hope folks are using the new releases and enjoy them. But what did change in the meanwhile, for the PnP Core SDK version, you have a really cool sample committed by Kinga Kazala. So she created a sample where we use an Azure function with managed identity and sites selected. So a really nice enterprise scenario of how to use PnP Core SDK in combination with .NET. And Jens did some small fixes there as well on the provisioning of sites. And then on the framework side, let's have a look. The main thing is the improved interop between Core SDK and PnP Framework. If you have configured PnP Core SDK, you customize it with custom settings and so on, you can then take those custom settings into PnP Framework, because PnP Framework under the covers also uses Core SDK, for example, to create a page or to apply branding settings. So now those settings, they flow over correctly into PnP Framework. And yeah, I think that sums it up for me. Let's move to PowerShell with Gautam. Thank you all.
Thanks, Bert. So we released a new 1.12.0 release a couple of days back, so do check it out. In PnP PowerShell, we also crossed 3.9 million downloads, so quite happy with that. What next? Nightly builds are continuing with various bug fixes and improvements. We also noticed a minor regression in the get PnP access token command, so we fixed that. So if you are running into that issue, please use the latest nightly builds. One of the major things that we did in the 1.12.0 release was the support for managed identities. So while working on the adding support for that, we realized that it's actually a bit more difficult to assign permissions to the actual object ID, the service principal behind that. So we also wrote the commands to make that easier for you, so that you can easily assign those permissions that you wish to assign to those service principal objects. So we added a bunch of commands like the get PnP Azure AD service principal and assign the role and adding the role permission, as well as removing of the role from the service principal's object. What next? Work continues on the .NET 6.0 support. So yeah, we'll continue to work on that. Besides that, would absolutely love to hear your feedback, your any thoughts or any issues that you have, and feel free to reach out to us on GitHub. So yeah, thanks from my end. Over to you, David.
Awesome, Gautam. Thank you very, very much. Look at those 3.9 million downloads and 100 million commands execute per day. Wow, fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions here. Let's talk about Yo Teams with Rick.
Hey, everyone. So we updated the Yo Teams build core. We also have to, that's not on the slide, but I have to warn everyone, we're cleaning up the old packages. So if you're still using them, yeah, it's time to move to the latest version, because the versions from like 5 years ago, it's time we clean them up. So if you have any automatic builds running, then please clean them up. We also switched to the main branch. We did some brand cleanups. We're still working on that one. What's next? Improved documentation. There's been quite some feedback for the documentation that we need to update that one. So we had an idea. We're going to produce some videos, small ones, tutorial-like ones, to help everybody get started with the Teams generator. And we're also still working on the VS Code extension for your teams. If you have some feedback, you know where to find us. It's on aka.ms/yoteams. And of course, we're always looking for some help. So if you want to improve some features or find a bug or you have an issue, just report it or help us out. And we're good to go then. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. And everybody, look at that good first issue option, too. That's a great way to find an easy, low-hanging fruit way to get contributing there. So thank you, Rick and team. All right, let's go to Microsoft Teams Toolkit, and we'll hand it over to Vesa.
Yeah, quickly jumping in here. John is taking time off today. So the latest version on the VS Code side is 4.1.3, which came out from the 17th of November. And this one is the one which is now by default already using is finally using the Microsoft Teams JavaScript version 2.0. So that basically means that the Teams application can be extended across the different application, Outlook and Office. So just a bit of a warning there, Outlook and Office needs to be still in preview status. So that means that your tenant, you need to have the tenant in preview status to be able to those applications to work on Outlook and Office as well. On the Teams Toolkit Visual Studio IDE side, the version is 17.4, which was released on 8th of November. So there's constant flow of new features and new versions available, which are then including improvements. We're trying to always include all of the updates in this bi-weekly slide. But that's it for this one. If you find any issues, please report them in github.com/office-dev TeamsFX issues. TeamsFX is basically the Teams Toolkit primary location. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Vesa. Let's hand it over to me for Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So 2.7.1 is the latest release. Definitely check that out. You can see more about it at aka.ms/mgt/v2.7.1. Just rolls off the tongue. Thank you to those that contributed. The sample repository is live and well. Definitely take that as one of your opportunities to contribute. And they're always looking for help. So don't hesitate to look for some of those good first issues here as well. Excellent opportunity, especially if you love MGT. You can see that at aka.ms/mgt/samples. Now let's talk about independent publisher connectors with Joss.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Happy Thanksgiving this holiday season. I am certainly grateful for this community. As always, we have some exciting news in the world of IP connectors. Since the last time we spoke, we have a new independent publisher contributor join our ecosystem. Thank you, Ashwani Kumar. We also have 6 new certified connectors from IPs since 2 weeks ago. Excuse the typo on that slide, but we are actually now a total of 202 independent publisher connectors. We have passed the 200 landmark. This is super exciting. And in total, in the entire connector ecosystem now across Power Automate, Power Apps, and Azure Logic Apps, we are at a total of 878 total connectors, which is 8 more than last week. We're pushing towards that 1,000 landmark in a couple of months. It's going to be so exciting. Aside from that, I'd like to remind you all that the Flow of the Week blog post is coming back. This was originally a blog post series that started and ended in 2019 to highlight specific Flow use case scenarios. But Power Automate was a much younger product at that point, and there are so many new things to highlight, especially with regards to connectors now. I am prioritizing community involvement in the revival of this series by opening up the stories and submissions to you all. So business users, citizen devs, Power Platform consultants, anyone who uses flows, please go ahead and fill out that form and tell me about a flow that you use and how it affects you. Visit aka.ms/flow-of-the-week form. Also, feel free to reach out to me at all. I'd also like to just remind everybody that our current especially for our current connector publishers, that there are some upcoming deployment freezes due to the holidays and the World Cup. We're still working on certifying your connectors, but we apologize if you face any delays. So reach out to me if you have any questions on that, if you want some help starting your connector building experience, or if you want to learn about Flow of the Week. Links will be in the chat. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Joss. And excellent work, everybody. That's a very good milestone. So thank you. All right, let's talk about script samples. Now, this is a fantastic opportunity for anybody to contribute to, because it's really a wide spectrum of opportunity. There are a number of scripts here that support Microsoft Graph, CLI for Microsoft 365, PnP PowerShell, Management Shell, excellent opportunities. And there's no script that's too small. New scenarios using PnP PowerShell, a variety of them there by Matteo, Kevin, Casper, Siddharth, and Reshmi. Thank you all. You could also get the extension. I think we're going to see a little demo of that today by Adam. And if you want to contribute, reach out to Paul. Again, fantastic opportunity. And this is a really great way to get those badges. There's a special badge for script samples, as well as you'll get the Season of Getting. So you get a double bonus again. So don't hesitate to take advantage of that. All right, let's talk about Microsoft Teams samples. It's a tale of two samples this week. We are looking at the Me Experience tab in SPFX, or the One Productivity Hub React Spa by Seb, first one being by Rabia. Now, these are two samples, both of which use Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So it's a cool way that they have different approaches to the Me Experience tab written using SharePoint Framework, and is hosted in SharePoint, whereas One Productivity Hub app is written in a single page application, could be hosted anywhere on the internet. So that's pretty cool. It's worth noting and comparing them because they both use MGT, but the SharePoint Framework uses the SharePoint Authentication Provider, whereas the SPA uses the Team Authentication Provider. So in both cases, MGT is being used. They're both very cool to see and compare. So don't hesitate to check them out. And thank you both, Rabia and Seb, for providing those to us. And last but not least is our Power Platform samples. So you can learn more about these at aka.ms/powerplatform-samples. There is a ton of samples here: Power Apps, connectors, and Power Effects, Power Automate, Power BI, Power Pages coming soon, Daniel Laskowitz, which is Dan the man, coming in to help us out process a lot of these. So a huge shout out to him. Thank you. And if you want to contribute to these, we've got that Power Platform Contributors Sharing is Caring session coming up on Monday. So still plenty of time to sign up for that. All right, well, what time is it? Picture time. So let's show those fantastic faces of you all in the community, and Vesa will take over.
Yep, I will do that in a second, and I will share my screen. It's starting right now, and let me move that in there, and then we get everybody in the call and put me camera on. And let's wait a few more seconds before we start recording, so we get a few more people in the room. Yes, I can see it. Daniel, yeah, oh, don't no, Rick, don't get. No, do we have more people? Of course, today we have a bit less attendance because of the Thanksgiving, which is completely understandable. There we go. Now we can see quite a few people. I will put the recording on 3, 2, and you will actually see the counter going down. And let's grab a GIF animation out of that. So let's do some hand time, everybody. Thank you for joining once again. Awesome to have you on the call. Excellent. That's a great few seconds long GIF animation. Thanks, everybody. David, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Vesa, and thank you, everybody, for sharing your cameras. All right. Well, let's get to our amazing presenters of the day. We're going to start out with Adam on Introduction to CLI for Microsoft 365 and PnP PowerShell VS Code extension. Take it away.
Okay, thanks, David. I hope you can see my screen, and I'll start with a small introduction about me. So, okay, hi, my name is Adam. I am a father, big news. Yeah, the kid is already 10 months old, but to be honest, for me, it's just like started yesterday. So I'm a family guy first now and developer second, but I love coding. My hobby is coding, my work is coding, my life is coding, and okay, sorry, too fast. So I'm a developer. And not so long ago, I joined CLI for Microsoft 65 maintainers, and I try to help as much as I can and break as little as I may. So if you have any questions or need some additional guidance regarding CLI, just ping me up, and if I can help, for sure I will. Currently, I work in Hitachi. I'm located in Poland, and you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. So let's move on. What's it all about? So I'm going to talk about a bit about scripts. First of all, why do we need scripts at all? And I'm pretty sure if you worked for a while now in SharePoint on-prem or line or just general in Microsoft 365, I'm pretty sure you already did develop some script. You had to develop some script to deploy some solution, to do some maintenance, whatever, create a list. So we do scripts to automate stuff. For example, we have a pipeline and there's a specific step in YAML. We have a PowerShell script to do something in the step, or we just have a script working in the background process, or we just have a lot of steps to do and we make a script to do them all in one go. Then script is a perfect opportunity for like a one file documentation that does the stuff and it's documenting it. Because for example, when creating list, we can say to someone, okay, you can go here, we can create a manual, go these steps, then put this content type, because we always in this company add this content type or whatever. You can just have a script that does it all and is a perfect documentation of its own. Then maybe you want to do a bit something more advanced, maybe something that's not recommended and it's not exposed like officially, but you did some sniffing around the REST API, which is for sure not recommended, but we can leverage. And usually we can leverage via script, not through the UI. Or maybe we have some company standards that, okay, we do it this way. We have some logging here that we put in this direction. Some scripts is also a perfect way to impose those. And then maybe there's a really trivial thing like the UI changed again, right? And the scripts and the REST endpoints don't change so frequently like the UI. At least I hope so. So script is a perfect approach here as well. So I'm pretty sure you will create a script in near future, or you already done so, and then you're going to have like more and more and more. You'll end up with a repository of scripts, and then when you have another task like please do a script to do something, you're like, I created the script some time ago. I don't want to start from scratch. I want to find it, and then the problem is to search for the right location. Probably maybe you have every scripts in the same location or in the context of your projects. We'll see. So that's the thing that happened in my case. So having too much scripts and too much work and trying to find it. And also a very thing that changed like all of our lives. And I used to work in office, and then due to COVID, we all just got kicked off to home and like working remotely or working wherever you are currently, which is great for me. But then I used to work like on 2, 3, most of the time 3 screens, not more. But then I ended up like, I have a small place, or usually I work where I am, not usually at my home. So I ended up working on a single laptop screen. And it turned out that switching context between Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio or other tools and browser is where I waste a lot of my time. And then what I also mentioned, my family got bigger. So I started coding, like holding one hand holding the kid and the other hand trying to write some code or trying to answer the Teams call, like and stand up, and with your third hand trying to find the teddy bear that just magically disappears all the time, and with your fourth hand, I guess you know what I mean. So I had a new situation in my life, and let's say new maybe opportunities to find a solution for those problems. And I try to find them first in the tools that are already on the market. But the first problem was where do I actually do I actually store my scripts? Maybe you already use this tool I'm presenting now. I used it a lot when I was working in SharePoint on-prem. And I think it's a really cool tool that has every feature you can find to have everything regarding scripts in the context of your work. It has the documentation. You can load any PowerShell module you want. You have the list of commands. You have the list of options. Great, but it's not great for me because my scripts are usually in the context of my full project. So I have a bunch of files, JavaScript files, TypeScript, whatever. And then in the middle of it, that's my script, and it's in the middle, in the context of my work. And usually as a script regarding this project, creating resources I need or maintenance stuff, whatever. And it's not always PowerShell. Sometimes, now we can have JavaScripts and JavaScript, whatever, right? So also this tool didn't support all the libraries I use. Those are not always PowerShell modules. I tend to favor also PnP CLI for Microsoft 365. So maybe you have the same thing that I have, and these are the 2 most frequently projects I added in the open source, which don't have those scripts folder. Yeah, you can see them. And I'm pretty sure I would find a project you were working on that also had this folder, right? So I knew I need to fix my problem in VS Code. So I created a prototype solution for me first, and it had the code snippets. It's a really perfect, like a kind of IntelliSense thing that gives you this autocomplete of a command you are trying to find or write, and you don't need to switch between the browser, copy paste the command or whatever, or remember it by heart. And of course, there are many tools now that give you a great IntelliSense and context, like GitHub Copilot, but the Copilot is actually giving you assumptions based on the context of your current work. It doesn't have the actual knowledge about this library. So this extension and the snippets will be better because it's filled with the documentation and with the correct commands. So the GitHub Copilot could assume that we have an option like web URL in this command where it's not always in every command. And then I had the docs embedded. This was like perfect for me not to transfer between the console to search for help or between the browser. I had the list of command. I created a list of the commands. I will show it in a while, And then we can browse every possible doc of every possible command for PnP PowerShell module or CLI for Microsoft 365 inside of VS Code. And it started only for me, but then, okay, I figured I just added icons, some more information in the package.json and add a nice README file and publish it to the market. And after a couple of days, it got more than downloaded and more than 100 times. And I got an awesome feedback from Paul and Valdek. So thank you very much. Based on their feedback and ideas, I added a third feature, which is a sample gallery. And I'm pretty sure you also had this problem, like, okay, I have to create a new script. I won't start from scratch. I'll start browsing the web. Maybe someone already done it, maybe in a better way, or maybe along the way I will learn a new approach for this problem, right? So I hope you already know this page. This is the PnP script sample gallery mentioned before also on this call, and it's a really perfect place to find like a kickstart example you're looking for. It has now more than almost 300 scripts and 189 scenarios, and so scripts in different versions of the same scenario. So it's pretty obvious that it's a perfect spot to start looking for an example of maybe you are trying of a thing you're trying to do currently. So instead of transferring again to the browser, I also embedded this in the context of your work. And now if you would just browse for Microsoft 365 in the Visual Studio Code Marketplace, you will find free extensions, which I recommend all three of those because two of those are mine. But the third one is also really cool to test out. Okay, so this is all for the slides, and now let's see the tool. So as I said, you can download either the PnP PowerShell extension or the CLI for Microsoft 365 extension. They are really similar. Currently, there is only one difference in the favor of the PnP PowerShell because I didn't have energy to transfer this functionality to the CLI, and it would be a bit different because at some level those technologies differ. And you can download it and just, browse, download, that's all. And then when we just start and let's change the language to maybe, let's say, PowerShell, the first feature I mentioned was the snippets. When we start just writing a command, as you can see, we get the full list of the context of maybe a command we want to write. And if we can push the arrow to get a one-liner description about this command, and maybe with the all possible, not all possible, but the obligatory options that need to be populated anyway when we write the command. And if I just hit tab, I get the command written for me, and I can move between the next obligatory options just hitting the tab button. And then if I want more context about this command that I'm actually writing, it's all working the same for the PnP PowerShell. We can use one of the two commands created with this extension. We can, if we are using CLI like I am now, we start writing CLI. If we want to check for a command for PnP PowerShell, we start with PnP PS, and then these are the commands we can use. So for the CLI, we can either open the script sample gallery, which I will show in a while, or open docs for this specific command, and then the command is pre-filled with what I selected. If I hit enter, boom, that's there. I get the full docs from the same thing you could browse, and even if you want to browse it, you can just go directly to this button, and then you'll transfer to the direct page in your default browser to this command. But if you prefer not switching between contexts like you can just go here and check for help and check for all possible options here and examples. And now we also in CLI add response. Of course, you have the full list. So on the right side, you can see the CLI. Okay, this is remembering what I typed before. I have the PnP PowerShell extension like picker and the CLI. And here we have the list of all possible commands currently in this library, and we can, of course, search for the one we want to use, and then just pick it to have this doc shown up. The other thing at the top, okay, we can transfer to the side of this library, so either to the CLI homepage of the PnP PowerShell homepage, or we can open the sample gallery, which is the last feature I added lately. And these are the samples. These are the same samples that you will find in the PnP script sample gallery, but for this one technology. So I am presenting here in this extension all the samples that are valid for the CLI, not for every possible tag. And we can search, of course, by name, like on install, or by the author, like for example me, or by the command. So let's say SPO list get, and here we will see all scripts examples that are actually using this command, and we can go directly to the repo of the script, or with one click button we can create a new file which is pre-populated with the contents of this example. And we can also do like transferring between from the command to the docs. Like, okay, let's see, I have this command, I want to see it in other examples. No problem. Let's go to the docs first. I can read more details about it. And then here on the right side, you have the additional button, show related samples, which will go to the sample gallery page, already pre-filled in the filter to get all the samples that is using this command. So with really low transferring, like one or two minor steps, you can browse the full docs of this command, or get all the examples in the PnP community that are using this command, so we can kick off, start working. The one thing which is additionally added in the PnP PowerShell, which is not present in the CLI yet, is the tree view. So in the commands search, of course, we can search like the flat list, but at the right, at the top in the right side, we have like the tree view. Then we have the commands grouped, and I can, for example, search for content type and see all the things related for the adding a content type. The CLI extension doesn't have it yet, because there will be like more granular, like a tree view, actually not just grouped by the possible verbs. And that's pretty all regarding the demo part. I hope you liked it. And the last slide I have is a small kind request for you to give me feedback, and to contribute as well. But of course, it doesn't mean that you have to contribute to those extensions. You may, of course, and it would be really cool if you would like to help me out. But of course, contributing to PnP PowerShell or CLI for Microsoft 365, or adding a new sample to the PnP script samples repo is also a perfect way to improve these extensions, because those extensions actually leverage the power of the documentation, put it in those libraries, in those repositories. So if you're contributing to those, especially samples or improvements in docs, then you're improving those extensions as well. So pretty awesome, and thank you a lot. And then if you could provide any kind of feedback, any comment, positive, negative, whatever, like, yeah, I don't use this tool, doesn't help me at all, it would be really great to hear it. If you find a bug and you're like laughing, it's also great. I like jokes. You can laugh with me. Just let me know about this bug so I can fix it, because I would like to have this tool working for more users as possible. If you have any ideas, then let me know, because I like to develop your ideas instead of mine. Of course, I have some ideas to improve this tool, but I rather do something that I know that will be actually used by more people. And if you have any questions regarding those extensions or just CLI for Microsoft 365, just also let me know, and if I can, I will help. So that's all I have to say, and I think I'll give the voice back to you, David.
Awesome, Adam. Really, really great job. Love these two extensions. Fantastic work. And by the way, everybody's loving your slides as well. So I think the general sentiment when you're showing your slides was everybody just loves them. So fantastic work there. All right. Now it's time for Chris Kent. We can hear him galloping in from across the interwebs. Chris, show us some magic.
Yo, yo. All right, let me share my screen. Do that, that's important. All right, can you see it?
Got it.
All right, that's me, everybody. I'm Chris. Happy Thanksgiving from the US. So really just probably David, maybe one or two other people on the call.
Josh is here too, gotta give her credit, and others.
There you go. Well, happy Thanksgiving all around the world. There you go. It's Turkey Genocide Day here in the US. So let's take a look. So we're going to follow our traditions. I think the third or fourth year in a row we've done a list formatting demo on Thanksgiving, featuring the turkeys here. So we've got our turkey site, our gobble gobble site, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a couple of things. So the turkeys, of course, anytime you're trying to prevent a genocide, you're of course going to use Office 365 to manage that and coordinate your efforts, and of course that's what they're doing. So as part of that, they've created various pages over the years. They've got several different authors doing stuff. They've got like pages that do the video thing. I think we showed this a couple of years ago, right? Like this is a list formatting demo, and you can go look that up. But one of the things they found difficult is managing the site pages library, right? So this particular site doesn't have a ton, but as you can imagine, some sites, especially when you start mixing in news and pages all in the same library here, it gets a little nuts, right? I'll zoom that just a little bit. There we go. So we're going to take a look at a couple of ways to make this slightly better. Okay. And of course, we're going to use formatting. Surprising. Yes. No, not really. All right, let's go. So we've got this by default, we got this by author, and it's got this stuff here, and that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to create a whole new view. We'll just call this Wowee, because that's fun. All right. Now, one thing to note is that you might think, oh, it'd be awesome if I come in here to this tiles view and then I start editing that, right? So I come in here and I go to format my current view and I'll be, what? Right? I don't get the actual design mode. If I switch to the design mode, I don't get my card designer. I don't actually get anything working here. If I try and do that tile format, it just doesn't work. So there's no gallery view customization here in the site pages library. So we cry, we're very sad, but we'll move on from it, right? So we're going to find a way to make this a little better. The first thing to note is there's actually a lot of information in this list that just isn't displayed by default. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the show hide columns and we're going to add them in here. So here's a few I like. I like the banner image URL, like the promoted state. Let's see, I like the title because this is lovely, the actual file name, but a lot of times the title is a little more important. And let's see, I like the like count, and I usually like the author byline. Where's that? There's author byline. Okay, so we'll just apply that, and we can add those columns in here. Woo, woo, there they are. All right, so the first one is this promoted state, right? So for whatever reason, in their wisdom, they decided that they would distinguish between news and site pages with this column, the promoted state. And the way it works is it's 0 when it's a site page. It is 1 when it's an unpublished news page, so it's news that it's in a draft form, and it's 2 when it is news. Right? So we can use that to do a few things, but that's not very helpful, right? And telling people like, oh, when it's 0, it's this, that's not great. So let's do this. We're going to format this column, and what we're going to do today is we're going to make this library a little easier to read, but we're also going to take a look at a couple of the ways that I find it easy to work when I'm working on new formats, right? So I'm going to switch to advanced mode so I can just write this here. Let's make this a little bigger so we can see what's going on. So let's make it just a little bigger even. There we go. So the first thing we do is we need an Elm type. All right, that's the box that holds things. So we're going to say it's a div. All right, and then we're going to say attributes because the 1 and the 0 don't mean anything. It would be better if we had an icon instead. Right, and so if we wanted an icon, we could come over here and we say, what's a good page, right? So we've got all these pages. I'm on flyken.io, and here's one, file.aspx, sounds great, as an icon name, so I can come back here to this guy, and I can say boom, and if I preview that, well, now I have an icon. Not very helpful just yet, but let's make it a little more helpful. Let's also make sure we can see it. So we're going to do that with a class. And we're just going to say the MS font, say MS font size is XXL. All right, so let's preview that. There we go. Now it's a little bigger. We can actually see it. Very exciting. But let's make that, be a little better. So let's put a title in there. So we have like a tooltip. And in this case, we'll just put news. All right, so now if we preview that, we get that. Now that's actually not accurate, right? Since these are site pages and those are news. So let's make that a little bit conditional. So we do that. When we want to write an expression, we want to start with equal sign, and then we're going to write an expression. So in this case, we're going to say if. We're going to look at the promoted state column. I could just say current field because that's what I'm on, but just for clarity, I'm going to say promoted state directly so we can see what the internal field looks like. I'm going to say if it equals 0, well, then that is when I want you to do that file ASPX, right? And we want to put that in single quotes. And then if it's not, then I want you to do something else, right? So in this case, let's go get another icon. And let's head on back over here and let's just search for news. And there's one, beautiful, news, catchy name. All right, we'll just paste that in there, news. Now we preview that. Now we get news here. Now we're still not distinguished between promoted state. So when you want to do that, there's no real switch statement. So what you want to do is just nest your if statement, right? So the way the if statement works is here's your condition, followed by a comma. This is the true value, and then this is the false value. So what we want to do is instead of a false value now, we actually want to put another if statement. So we'll just say if, and we'll just repeat our promoted state. equals 1 this time. Well, instead of news, we want to do something else. We'll just put a comma, and then we'll add another parenthesis here to show our nested. Let's go back to our, we're just going to grab, just for simplicity, the news search, just to have a slightly different icon. And we'll just paste that in there. And now we preview that. And now we can see that now we've got a different icon, and that's okay. But I want to repeat this same kind of logic, right? So one of the things I do is, when you write these kind of if statements, a lot of times you want to set multiple properties conditionally. And there's no real way to set like a variable where I evaluate this just once. So I have to reevaluate that each time I want to set something conditionally. So write it once and then cut and paste, right? So let's grab this. Let's copy that. So instead of title, let's just paste this in here. And we can say, instead of file ASPX, right? We can do the exact same thing. We can say, site page. And they'll come over here. Instead of news search, we're going to say news draft. And then news is fine for that one. Okay, so let's preview that. And now we hover over it and we get our tooltip. All right, so we didn't have to rewrite all that again. We just replaced the true false values. And now if we want to convert this, the class, right? So maybe we want to do colors or something like that into an expression. We can write an equals thing, and then we might have wrapped this in quotes. We need a space because we're going to add an extra thing. We're going to say plus to add to our string. And let's get rid of that extra equals. All right. And in this case, I want to put a MS font color dash, and then we're going to determine what that font color is. And for us, we want to say, hey, if you're the site page, we're going to say theme primary. All right. And if you're the news and draft, we're going to say you're neutral primary. And then finally, if you are actually news, then we're going to say you're theme secondary. So you could put in whatever values you want there. If you don't want to be theme-based, we've got all sorts of other colors for you. But there you go. So there's something nice for us. And that's a lot easier to understand than just a 0, 1, or 2. And it also gives us something to work with there. Now, one thing I like to do also is, let's save that, just so we can see, is I want it to be right-aligned, right? So one of the things I like to do is use Flexbox. And the easiest way to use Flexbox in the Edge browser, right, is just go ahead and add a display style of flex. Now, it's not going to change anything just yet, but what I like to do that for is because when I want to mess with the flex box, I hit, I go for my dev tools here, which we don't need to do a whole lot with them. I know it looks a little scary, but you can click this guy right up here and you click on it. And you say, hey, you, there you are, right? I don't know what's going on there. That's awesome. Let's try that again. Let me click on the right thing. Okay, click on the correct thing. Let's see as I click on it. There it is. Okay, so now see how we got this. Actually, click on that guy. See where this little flex icon is? You can click that and you can adjust flex properties here. So I don't have to know all these fancy properties for flex, right? But if I want to just say, yeah, can you put it over to the right? I could say, flex end. That's how I'm going to do that. And you can see that it says justify content flex end. Well, I can do that. All right, so I come in here and I say justify content, and I say flex end. When I preview that, hey, it worked. So now I don't need these scary tools anymore. But that's how I figured out how the Flexbox would work for me without having to really know Flexbox. All right, so that's great. We'll save that, and then we're going to move that over because that's the reason we did that is because we're going to bring this all the way over because I don't find this particular thing helpful, this type. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to my show hide columns and I'm going to remove type and hit apply. And then I've got my promoted state right up front. You can see the name, and I'm actually going to bring title over because I think title is better than the file name. Let's bring that over like that. File name is helpful and it's got these extra fields, so we don't want to lose it necessarily. But that's important. Okay, so that's cool. So now we've made that a little bit better. Let's go a little further, shall we? I think we shall because, yeah, I'm running this thing. So let's take a look at that author byline, right? So we've got the modified by and we've got the created information, but a lot of times the modified by isn't always the same as the author byline, right? And you may not always have an author byline. So the author byline refers to, if we look at this page, right, this is what happens here. So in there, when you add a user here, that's the author byline, which isn't necessarily the person who wrote the article, right? It might be your CEO writing his weekly blog post that's really written by his administrative assistant, right, and published by you. So, but that information is still helpful because that acts as the owner. So what I want to do here is I want to take a look at how we could take an existing sample and kind of apply it here. So we're going to say format that. And let's head over to our list formatting repo. And these are organized by column samples, view samples, form samples, and column samples. And these are organized by the column type. This is a person column, so I'm just going to scroll down until these things start to say person on them. And let's grab the person hover card. And I'm just going to click on the JSON file and hit the copy button. And come over here. And while I don't necessarily know everything it does, I can copy and paste it here. One thing we'll notice is it doesn't really work because for whatever reason, editor is hard-coded in there. That's the modified by. So we can hit Control F because this is the Monaco editor. And we can see wherever this is, editor. And we can do this little drop down. We can replace it with @current field, right? And we'll just replace that everywhere. And then we'll do some small cleanup to remove that extra square bracket on there. And when we've done that, we say preview. And boom, but there we go. Now we've got, it's actually pulling in that author by line. The only other thing we want to add here is we don't want it to show anything when the author by line isn't set. So we'll just add a style and we'll add a display and we'll say equals if @current field, right? So it has a value. Then, let's do inherit or something like that, right? So it just keeps it. Otherwise, let's do none. And then let's preview that. Boom. So we just took a sample that's meant for something else, and we just were able to customize it by only changing a couple things and using that find and replace. So let's save that. That's helpful. And now let's do another one here. All right, so let's come over here to our banner image. All right, so we've got this banner image URL. And so this refers to that image that's at the very top of the page. And the URL, very helpful to have that, right? But it'd be much more helpful if we could actually see the image. So again, if we head back over here, and we'll go back to our column samples, this column type, if we take a look here, we go to column settings and we hit edit. Can't do a whole lot with it, but it's a hyperlink column, right? So it's one of those picture columns. So you come down here, we could find a picture, but I actually really like this image lightbox sample. So let's grab the image lightbox, click that, and we're going to copy this. But this actually is a sample intended for an image column type, right? So it's not going to work by default, but we're going to customize it so that it does. Okay, we'll preview that. Burp, all broken, as expected, because it's trying to pull in from an image type, right? Now, one thing to note is normally you would access the description by saying DSC, but because this is the banner image, no one ever sets that. So we'll just get rid of the tooltip altogether. Now come down here, wherever it says source, we just want it to be current field because that is the URL. And then we'll come down here, we've got it again here. And we're going to say all this extra stuff. We don't need that. And again, we don't need the tooltip because this tooltip will just be the URL. If we preview that, now we start to see something a little better. All right. And in fact, we can click it and we can see this. It looks a little weird for a second, but that's because previously we relied on that sample to size our image for us. And so we're just going to size it ourselves by adding a quick thing here. We're going to say style, and we're going to say max height or wax width is 100%. All right, fit in that tiny little box. And we want to put our max height also at 100%. Whee, like that. How exciting. Okay, so preview that. There we go. So that was a little better. Let's save that. Get rid of that because that's messing up some of our spacing. But now we get the banner image. We can actually see that a lot more detail, and that's cool. That looks a little better. That also associates that visually with that page, right? So we can begin to see things a little better. So let's bring that. Let's maybe bring that one back over here because I think that's more helpful to have here. And then let's bring the author byline here also. Okay, and the last one is this like count. All right, so let's do something with the like count. So the like count is not likes like everywhere else because, the site pages is a silly little library. So what we're going to do here in the like count is I'm just going to copy and paste a sample here that I've got so we can wrap this up and I can get to cooking that turkey. All right, so let's preview that. And the main thing I want to note here is, so this is a quick sample. All it's really doing is adding an icon, and it's got two spans. There's an icon and then the actual count of likes. One thing to note is that until someone has liked it, it is a blank value, right, like we saw. So what you want to just do is check if it's a blank value and then show 0, right, in that case. And then if you're not going to show it, or you're going to show a different color like I've done, 0 is a valid value, right? So if someone unlikes it, so you just want to make sure that you're not just relying on that same check there, and you want to check if it's greater than 0. Okay. Now, again, this wasn't really the point. The point was just to point out that likes are a little bit different. But the idea here is just for a few column formats, let's zoom this out a little bit, we could start to see that we can make this a much more usable library, right? And we could go a lot further by using grouping and some of the other things we want to do there. Several people like Sue Hanley and some other people have put together some pretty cool things they suggest for your default views in here for authors to make this a little better. And I'm suggesting that column formatting can go a long way with it as well. Okay, so all that, let's head back to our slides, which are a little less fancy, but still slides. So there we go. All right, so a couple reminders. The separate types of content, if only there were some way to separate types of content, like a content, I don't know, whatever. But they are denoted by promoted state in the site pages library. So you'll want to use that, right? And then the gallery view cannot be customized, and that like count is not the same as likes elsewhere. So when you go to our sample repo and you're like, oh, I want to apply one of our likes samples to it, it's not going to be the same because we don't get things like likes count and liked by behind the scenes using the rating stuff. Instead, we get this internal column called likes. So just keep that in mind. And then lastly, here's a reminder of what those promoted state values mean. And I highly recommend, even if you don't like the icon idea, but finding a way to denote that. Even if you're grouping by it, you can apply some of those group props. I always find icons and colors make it a lot quicker to find stuff. But if you'd rather have just the text, I suggest that. I would never suggest showing those 0, 1, and 2 to authors, though, because that's just confusing. Okay, so lastly, here's some resources for you to check out on this nice Thanksgiving Day and be thankful for. These are the 3 samples we looked at, so you can take a look at those and check out that tool if you want to find some icons. And of course, the documentation's there. And that's it for me. Woo!
Awesome, Chris. Everybody's happy. So thank you for sharing your amazing list formatting magic. All right, let's wrap it up. Well, we just want to say thank you to both of our amazing presenters today, Adam and Chris. What can we say? We just got to cheer for you. So thank you. And all of you who joined today. I appreciate taking time out of your day for doing that. So we really appreciate it and love this community and all your passion. The recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel. You can access that at ak.ms/m365/videos. And if you subscribe, you will be alerted on when it is available. You will not be able to download it from the Teams, even though it says, hey, I'm done processing and you can re-download me. You can't. So your best way is to go to ak.ms/m365/videos and subscribe. You can follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev and at M365PnP. The next general dev call is 2 weeks from today, December 8th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And the next Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework call is December 1st at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Access all of these calls and the invites at ak.ms/m365/calls. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Have a wonderful weekend. If you're in the States, a wonderful long weekend. And thank you for being the amazing part of this community you are. Keep it up. You are all so awesome. Have a great day.